The use of residential-grade receptacles on a commercial job is generally not permitted by electrical codes. There are several reasons for this prohibition. Firstly, lower durability is a factor. Residential receptacles are designed for lighter, intermittent use compared to commercial-grade receptacles, which are rated for heavy-duty and continuous use. Secondly, insufficient capacity is a concern. Residential receptacles may not have sufficient amperage capacity to handle the electrical loads typically found in commercial environments. Thirdly, fire safety concerns are paramount. Overloaded or improperly installed residential receptacles can pose fire hazards due to their lower current carrying capabilities and insulation ratings. Fourthly, code compliance is mandatory. Electrical codes such as the National Electrical Code, or NEC, and local building codes may specifically require the use of commercial-grade receptacles for commercial installations. However, there may be limited exceptions where residential receptacles are allowed in commercial environments. Firstly, for very low-load applications such as phone chargers or other small electronics, residential receptacles may be acceptable. Secondly, in temporary installations or temporary power distribution systems, residential receptacles may be used for convenience. Installing residential receptacles in a commercial building can be a code violation and could result in inspection failures, fines or penalties, loss of insurance coverage, or fire safety hazards. It is always best practice to use the appropriate grade of receptacles for the intended application. Commercial-grade receptacles are designed and tested to meet the higher demands and safety requirements of commercial environments. For example, a typical residential receptacle might be rated for 15 amps at 125 volts, while a commercial-grade receptacle could be rated for 20 amps at 125 volts or even higher. The difference in amperage capacity directly impacts the amount of electrical load the receptacle can safely handle. The construction of commercial-grade receptacles also differs significantly from residential-grade receptacles. Commercial-grade receptacles often feature heavier-gauge metal parts, more robust insulation, and tighter tolerances. These features contribute to increased durability and longevity, especially in environments where receptacles are subjected to frequent use and potentially harsh conditions. For instance, a commercial kitchen or a manufacturing facility will place far greater demands on receptacles than a typical residential living room. The NEC, specifically Article 406, addresses the installation of receptacles. It outlines requirements for the type of receptacles permitted in different locations and applications. While the NEC doesn't explicitly define residential grade versus commercial grade, it does provide guidelines that effectively differentiate between receptacles suitable for light-duty and heavy-duty use. For example, the NEC requires tamper-resistant receptacles in dwelling units and child care facilities, which is a specification that often overlaps with residential applications. In contrast, for commercial settings with heavy equipment or machinery, the NEC may mandate the use of receptacles with specific voltage and amperage ratings, as well as features like ground fault circuit interrupter or GFCI protection. The choice of receptacle also affects wiring considerations. Commercial installations often use larger gauge wires to accommodate the higher amperage demand. Using residential-grade receptacles with undersized wiring can create a fire hazard due to overheating. Therefore, selecting the appropriate receptacle is not just about the device itself, but also about ensuring the entire electrical system is properly sized and installed. Furthermore, the consequences of using the wrong type of receptacle can extend beyond code violations and fines. If a fire occurs due to an overloaded or faulty receptacle, the building owner or contractor could face significant liability. Insurance companies may deny claims if it is determined that the electrical system was not installed in accordance with applicable codes and standards. Therefore, adhering to best practices and using commercial-grade receptacles in commercial settings is a critical risk management strategy. In addition to the NEC, local building codes may impose further restrictions on the use of residential-grade receptacles. These local codes can vary significantly depending on the jurisdiction. Therefore, it's essential to consult with local electrical inspectors and review the specific requirements in your area before commencing any electrical work. Another important consideration is the type of equipment that will be connected to the receptacles. Some equipment, such as industrial machinery or medical devices, may require specialized receptacles with specific features like locking mechanisms or isolated grounding. Using residential-grade receptacles for such equipment is clearly inappropriate and could compromise the safety and performance of the equipment. Moreover, the installation environment plays a crucial role in determining the appropriate type of receptacle. In damp or wet locations, such as bathrooms or outdoor areas, GFCI-protected receptacles are required to prevent electrical shock hazards. In hazardous locations, such as areas with flammable materials, explosion-proof receptacles are necessary to minimize the risk of ignition. Residential-grade receptacles are not typically designed for these types of demanding environments. The testing and certification process for commercial-grade receptacles is more rigorous than for residential-grade receptacles. Commercial-grade receptacles are often subjected to more stringent tests for durability, temperature rise, and resistance to arcing and tracking. These tests help ensure that commercial-grade receptacles can withstand the highest stresses and demands of commercial environments. In contrast, residential-grade receptacles may only be tested to meet basic safety standards. The lifespan of a commercial-grade receptacle is typically much longer than that of a residential-grade receptacle. This is due to the higher quality materials and more robust construction used in commercial-grade receptacles. Replacing receptacles can be a time-consuming and expensive process, especially in commercial buildings with a large number of receptacles. Therefore, investing in commercial-grade receptacles can save money in the long run by reducing the frequency of replacements. Another factor to consider is the appearance of the receptacles. Commercial-grade receptacles are often available in a wider range of colors and styles than residential-grade receptacles. This allows for greater flexibility in matching the receptacles to the overall design of the building. While aesthetics may not be the primary concern in commercial settings, it is still important to choose receptacles that are visually appealing and consistent with the building's overall image. The ease of installation is also an important consideration. Commercial-grade receptacles are often designed with features that make them easier to install, such as back-wiring terminals and clear labeling. This can save time and reduce the risk of errors during installation. In contrast, residential-grade receptacles may be more difficult to install, especially for electricians who are not familiar with them. The cost of commercial-grade receptacles is typically higher than that of residential-grade receptacles. However, the increased durability, performance, and safety of commercial-grade receptacles make them a worthwhile investment in the long run. The cost of replacing a faulty receptacle or dealing with the consequences of a fire can far outweigh the initial cost savings of using residential-grade receptacles. Furthermore, the use of commercial-grade receptacles can enhance the reputation of the building owner or contractor. Demonstrating a commitment to safety and quality can attract tenants and customers and build trust with the community. In contrast, using substandard materials or cutting corners on electrical installations can damage the reputation and credibility of the building owner or contractor. Therefore, the choice of receptacles can have a significant impact on the overall success of a commercial project. In summary, the use of residential-grade receptacles in commercial buildings is generally not permitted due to concerns about durability, capacity, safety, and code compliance. While there may be limited exceptions for low-load applications or temporary installations, it is always best practice to use commercial-grade receptacles in commercial settings. This will ensure the safety and reliability of the electrical system and minimize the risk of code violations, fines, and other consequences. Before commencing any electrical work, consult with local electrical inspectors and review the specific requirements in your area. Choosing the right receptacle is a critical decision that can have a significant impact on the safety, performance, and longevity of the electrical system. Therefore, it is important to carefully consider all of the factors involved before making a decision. In addition to the points already discussed, consider the specific requirements of the equipment that will be connected to the receptacles. Some equipment may require specific types of receptacles, such as those with locking mechanisms or isolated grounds. Using the wrong type of receptacle can damage the equipment or create a safety hazard. Also consider the environmental conditions in which the receptacles will be used. In damp or wet locations, GFCI-protected receptacles are required to prevent electrical shock hazards. In hazardous locations, explosion-proof receptacles are necessary to minimize the risk of ignition. Residential-grade receptacles are not typically designed for these types of demanding environments. Another factor to consider is the potential for vandalism or tampering. In public areas, vandal-resistant receptacles may be necessary to prevent damage or theft. These receptacles are typically made of heavy-duty materials and have tamper-resistant features. The frequency of use is also an important consideration. In high-traffic areas, receptacles may be subject to more wear and tear. Commercial-grade receptacles are designed to withstand frequent use and are more durable than residential-grade receptacles. The ease of maintenance is another factor to consider. Commercial-grade receptacles are often designed with features that make them easier to maintain, such as removable covers and replaceable parts. This can save time and money in the long run. Finally, consider the overall budget for the electrical installation. While commercial-grade receptacles are typically more expensive than residential-grade receptacles, they offer better value in the long run due to their increased durability, performance, and safety. It is important to strike a balance between cost and quality when selecting receptacles for a commercial project. The NEC provides guidance on the selection and installation of receptacles in various applications. Article 210 covers branch circuits and outlets, including requirements for receptacle placement and spacing. Article 406 covers the installation of receptacles and attachment plugs, including requirements for grounding, polarity, and tamper resistance. Article 500 through 516 cover hazardous locations, including requirements for explosion-proof receptacles. It is important to consult the NEC and any applicable local codes before commencing any electrical work. In addition to the NEC, other standards and guidelines may be relevant to the selection and installation of receptacles. The National Electrical Manufacturers Association, or NEMA, publishes standards for receptacles and other electrical equipment. These standards provide detailed specifications for performance, safety, and interchangeability. The Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, or IEE, publishes standards for electrical safety and power quality. These standards can provide guidance on the proper use of receptacles in various applications. Local building codes may also impose additional requirements for the selection and installation of receptacles. It is important to consult with local electrical inspectors and review the specific requirements in your area before commencing any electrical work. In conclusion, the selection and installation of receptacles is a critical aspect of electrical safety and performance. Using the appropriate type of receptacle for the application is essential to prevent electrical shock hazards, fire hazards, and equipment damage. It is important to consult with qualified electrical professionals and follow all applicable codes and standards to ensure safe and reliable electrical installation.